This is 89.7 FM. Broadcasting live 24 hours a day. 89.7 FM.
We just came from playing your song. That's by Charlotte Church. It's a song called Confessional Song. And just before that, we played your song by Mary J. Blige. It's a song called Right Now. This is the Business Buzz on RMR 89.7 FM. It's your boy MobbJustice and Deepa in the building. And right now, we're joined in studio by Mandisa Mali.
Good evening.
Did I pronounce that properly?
Perfect.
Okay, that's good. Mandisa's a banker. She works for one of the big four banks, you know. And before we get into the story of how you came to be, why banking?
There was no choice, really. It was never a case of choosing that I want banking or whatever career.
Yeah.
It was a case of what was available at the time.
Yeah.
So I had never had a passion for banking prior to that. So, yeah.
And now? Has the situation improved?
Yeah, there's no other place I'd rather be, hey? So banking is exciting, it's crazy. It's not only about you, it's about the customers, it's about everything.
Okay, and what would you say to someone who says that bankers are pencil pushers?
I would say you need to be there to understand what I'm talking about. So, like I say, I've never ever thought of it. I did marketing. And it's only when you get there that you understand what banking is about. And I think the essence of banking, we all miss it, even the bankers, that it's about customers. And the exciting thing about customers is that everybody's different. Every day is different.
Okay. Now we can get into the story. I know that you grew up in the Eastern Cape. You know, tell us a little bit about that. I know you said PE, NMMU. How was that?
Yeah, so I was born and bred in Port Elizabeth.
Yeah.
I finished my matric in Johannesburg, and then I chose to come back to NMMU.
Yeah.
Finished my varsity, and then the first opportunity that came up was in car sales, surprisingly, yes. And it was a very weird industry for me, and if for someone that's ambitious, I quickly realized that for me to be in any managerial position, I would have to be 55. So, so I kind of like started looking, and the next best thing was in banking.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I started as a consultant, and I worked my way through. So my first managerial role was a youth manager, which included a combination of youth banking, which is tailoring products for the youth, and marketing. So it was a very exciting job, and I dealt a lot with, I just remembered every time I come back to Rhodes, I remember that I dealt a lot with the Rhodes SRC, the University of Forte SRC, the NNMU's SRC. So it was an interesting period in my life because I had just graduated, 2 years prior to that.
Yeah.
And then I worked in the bank for a year. After that, I was promoted to a manager. So it was interesting to be on the other side of the fence.
Okay.
But still be within the youth environment.
So you were those people who come to do activations on, I don't want to assume anything, but is that sort of the role that you're playing?
Correct,
at that time?
yeah. So I was in the role where the SRC president or whoever was tasked with that role, they would write the letter to me to say, hey, your institution would like you to come and market. We're having orientation week. And I would be the person that negotiates that with the bank.
Yeah.
And also when, I call them youngsters these days. When youngsters have brilliant ideas and they need sponsorship. So I was that kind of girl. And I would have to fight for sponsorship because I kind of took young people seriously because I was young, you know, but also to bring in the banking element as well. So I would have to go and fight for the sponsorship, also promising that, we're going to bank this institution and paint it the color of our bank and kind of thing. So it was an exciting time in my life.
Okay. I know that right now, you're doing your MBA here at Rhodes. And it seems to me like there's a sort of a tension that's going on in your life. there's the big city girl, and then there's the Eastern Cape girl, because, the Eastern Cape keeps pulling you back. Are you going to ever come back and just settle,
Wow.
Would you?
I would. I've got a son.
Yeah.
He's 6 years old. And I think things have changed. So it's not about me anymore and my priorities. So initially it was about me and my career. And hence I went to Johannesburg, where there's more opportunities in banking. The growth is so fast versus the Eastern Cape. But being there and having my son and doing my MBA at Rhodes, my priorities have kind of changed. So I've started considering it. I'm not sure this time next year what I'll be saying. But there are opportunities everywhere in banking. So all the provinces have opportunities for me. But again, my son remains a priority, and he's been accepted in Port Elizabeth.
Oh, okay.
So like I say, maybe
slowly but surely.
Next time this year, maybe we'll be having a different conversation.
Okay, cool. So how long has it been, banking industry?
9 years. I think.
9 years?
Yeah, so, yeah.
Okay, so that means working 11, because you said...
Working 10.
10?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you take any of your car sales experience into the banking world?
Yes, I had to, because so that would be shrewd sales skills.
Yeah.
And that's what I needed to get. So remember, the banking industry, even today, you are recognized by your experience. And if you don't have that, then who are you?
Yeah.
So I had to have something that's going to make people stop having that doubt that, oh, there's this girl fresh from varsity because she's got marketing, she's joining the bank, and yet she's never worked in the bank, because bankers believe that you need to start to be a teller and then you work your way up.
Yeah.
And in our generation, that doesn't work, So I needed to use those shrewd sales skills that scared me in the car industry, and I made them work for me in the banking industry. So my sales and my proactiveness and my aggression got me to the next level.
Okay. Okay, fine. On that point, I like the fact that you're bringing this up, the whole thing of experience, because it points there's a lot of things going on there, because you'll be an eager youngster, that you've been at school for such a long time. How did you get them to respect you?
So like I say, and maybe it's advice to youngsters out there that are going into the working environment.
Yeah.
You need to let your work talk for you.
Yeah.
You're always going to get doubts when you come into a totally new industry. You absolutely need to work very hard that you kill that doubt from everybody. So that's what I did. I worked extremely hard, and I always use the example that I played the fool.
Yeah.
My passion was in marketing. So the marketing manager, I would carry her bags around when she's got big sponsorships. And people noticed me. And she, when she was too busy for certain events that were not good enough for her, I was there representing the bank. And people started saying, hang on, there's this girl who's very ambitious, and maybe we need to consider this little girl who works hard. So my advice to you guys would be, let your work talk for you.
Okay. What mistakes are the youngsters making out there in the workplace, the ones that you're coming in contact with?
Let me talk about mistakes I made.
Okay.
Because I think the youngsters this time around are very different. They're well informed. I mean, there's Google, there's everything. You get to Google interview questions these days. So I think for me, the mistakes that I made, the first one would be in terms of my finances, being in the banking industry. You get in the banking industry, you are offered all sorts of credit.
Yeah.
You get an overdraft, you get a loan, you get a credit card.
Yeah.
And if you're young and silly, it's excitement for you, it's money, it talks a lot to your friends and your status.
Yeah.
Forgetting that the bank's going to want its money.
Yeah.
So that's over the years I've recovered, but it took me longer to achieve the goals that I wanted because I made mistakes when I started. So that's the first thing that I would say. The mistake that I've observed with young people is that young people tend to kind of like burn their bridges very early because, to your point, they're excited, they're educated, and at some point there's a fine line between undermining the people that have been there forever and expressing new ideas and being innovative, you know. So I would say don't burn your bridges too early, especially in big companies, because I mean, you'd work for somebody for a year, the next time they move to another province or they move to head office, you're also ambitious to land up in head office, hey, this person is working with you, you know what I mean? And people talk. Unfortunately, in the corporate environment, it's not as easy as what we all think. People talk. All I can say is don't burn your bridges and be careful about your finances. You need to understand your goals, and you need to understand that we are all individuals. My goal is not the same as your goal. I might be coming from a rural area, and my first goal is to build a house for my mother. Your first goal is to buy your own house. You know what I mean? So you really need to know where you're coming from and be careful about your finances.
Okay, so struggles are different.
Yeah.
Absolute last question, because you know we are a bit pressed for time. The things that you learned at school. This is the question that we ask all the guests that come into the studio. That now that you're now that you're actually in industry, you know, we've got Rhodes students that are out there thinking to themselves, this stuff that I'm going to lectures for in the morning every day, does it matter? You know, so would you say it was sort of the book stuff that is helping you along, or is it sort of the street smart type of things that you learned along the way?
Sure, that's an interesting one. I mean, I would say that there's two parts to my answer. The first part is about the stuff that you learn at school. It's not very seldom will you get to your first day at work and be asked about the marketing mix as an example. It's not about the stuff that you learn. It's about how you apply those things. So maybe to cut it short, my answer would be no. Whatever it is that you learn in class, it's about the application of that. It's not necessary that you get to work and you'll be asked about those things. The second part to my answer is that 80% of the people that I know studied something differently and landed in totally different careers. Myself as an example, like I said, I studied marketing, but then I ended up in banking. So what you study really just prepares you know your frame of reference. But it's not to say you're going to do the same thing when you walk out of here. So then my advice would be, open your mind, open your world to things that are totally different to what you're studying, because that's where your opportunities lie and that's where you find yourself. Like I said, I did marketing, now I'm in banking. I'm a branch manager right now. I never thought of it, but I'm having the best time of my life.
Okay. I like that. On that note, thank you so much, Mandisa.
Thank you for having me.
I'm sure that we're going to be having interesting conversations in a year.
Yeah,
5 years.
Absolutely.
10 years' time. Very interesting times looking back at these interviews. And we wish you the best.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so that was our conversation with Mandisa Mali all the way. She's in Joburg, but she's slowly coming back. I'm gonna say she's gonna keep coming back. Deepa, our ever wondered for the week is?
Okay, our ever wondered is an asset test. This is a test of a company's ability to meet its immediate cash requirements. It is one of the most common business ratios used by financial analysts. So if you've ever wondered what an asset test is, well, now you know.
Interestingly enough, myself and Mandisa have been learning these things in class.
Oh, okay. This is the first time I've actually heard about this. So it was news to myself.
We could have told you that.
89.7 FM.